Hello and welcome back to Tales of Lumin and Hearthstone. Today we're having a look at my top 10 favourite Whispers of the Old Gods cards. I'm getting this done at the very last moment. I wanted to record this top 10 before actually coming into contact with any of these cards, before starting to use the cards from this set, because I think it'll be interesting to look back on this in a couple of weeks to see how my top 10 holds up. Now, these are my favourite cards. These are the cards that I like because they seem fun, because of the flavour, because of the card art. It doesn't really matter. It's not because I think they're super good, not because I think they're gonna be amazingly broken like Dr. Boom or Shredder or anything like that. There are a couple in here that I don't particularly like, but I did put in there because I think they're gonna have a big effect on the meta and they're gonna be really good for the classes that they're in, and so on and so forth. But most of them I picked because I like the cards and I can't wait to use them myself. Also, I did not include any of the old gods. For those that don't know, the old gods are a big deal. The set is called Whispers of the Old Gods. There are 4 of them. There's Cthulhu, N'Zoth, Yogg-Saron, and Y'Shaarj. Those are not in my top 10. I thought it would be unfair to include them in there because I would probably want to put all 4 of them in there because they're great designs. I like them. I'm probably going to want to try and use them all at some point. Maybe not in the same deck, but who knows. Perhaps I'll put them all in the same deck. Doesn't matter. It would be unfair towards the other cards to include them because they're going to take up spaces. So instead, it's my top 10 excluding the old gods. Okay? Now, I'm going to start with 9 and 10, or 10 and 9, and both of these have multiple cards in them. It's a little weird, I know, but it's my top 10. I'm doing it the way I want to do it. Okay? Number 10 is every single forbidden card in the set. I decided to include these and include all of them because firstly I couldn't make a choice, but mainly because I love the idea of them. I love the flexibility that you have with these cards. The fact that you can use them on any turn, and the fact that you can sort of just make them fill out any gap that you have. Forbidden Shape-In from Priest. Spend all your mana, summon a random minion that costs that much. I love this. So you can actually try and gamble for something specific, or you can just go for whatever based on how much mana you have left, or you can just use it on the turn that you draw it on as like just a tempo play, you know, to get something out there. It just has so many different uses. I love it. I love the way that Blizzard set these up. Then there's the Forbidden Ancient from Druid, 1 mana for a 1/1. Battlecry, spend all your mana, gain +1/+1 for each mana spent. I spoke about this in my class card review, and I couldn't get enough of these forbidden cards. Now I thought a little more about them, and I still can't get enough of them. I just think they're amazing. They are always going to be a good top deck. At least most of them. You know, some of them, like for instance the Paladin Heal, which we'll get to in a second, that might not be amazing. Sure, it'll keep you alive for a bit longer, but it won't be as big or impactful as some of the others. But just if you think about it, it's always nice to sort of rate a card based on how good it would be if that is the only card you've got. So you've got nothing in your hand, this thing comes flying out of your deck, bam, big impact on the game. A lot of the cards that I sort of considered for top 10, I thought about like that, and some of them fell short. These ones, however, they're great. You play the Forbidden Ancient on turn 10, it's a 10/10. Turn 3, it's a 3/3. Turn 4, 4/4. It's all okay. And it can fill any of those slots that you want them to fill. Forbidden Flame. Spend all your mana, deal that much damage to a minion. Again, you top deck it on turn 10, you can destroy pretty much any minion that your opponent would have. I mean, obviously there are a few that might not die to 10 mana, but, you know, still, it's a lot of damage. Then it can also, like I said in my card review video for the class cards, it can proc things, trigger things. You can use it with your Flamewaker, with your Auctioneer, with whatever. I like that. I like that a lot. Forbidden Healing for Paladin. Spend all your mana, restore twice that much health. That's a lot of health. That's a big heal. I imagine Murloc Paladin would have loved this, right? That'll keep you alive. That'll keep you in the game while you're waiting for those Murlocs and things to stack up for your anything can happen. Forbidden Ritual. Spend all your mana, summon that many tentacles. This one, I suppose I like this one the least of the lot of them. I just think that it's probably the least impactful, but if you take this and combine it with some of the other Warlock class cards, like the Councilman, like the one that whenever a minion dies, your Cthulhu gets +1/+1, like Doom, just a bunch of the Warlock cards. If you combine it with those, it's pretty damn good. A lot of synergy going on there, and that's the same for the others. And that's why I picked them as my number 10, all of them together. Now, number 9, just as weird, even more cards in number 9. Number 9 is going to be all the 1-drops being added in Whispers of the Old Gods. It's basically just like a shout out to Blizzard for adding all these amazing options on 1 mana. I love it. I absolutely love the amount of, I suppose variety is the right word, because they added so many different 1-drops, and I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they're able to come up with new ideas this far down the line, stuff that we've never seen before. N'Zoth's First Mate for Warrior. 1 mana, 1/1, Battlecry, equip a 1/3 Rusty Hook, and it's a pirate. This is great. This is a really good card. It's going to be amazing for a whole lot of different pirate decks, whole lot of different warrior decks, and it's just going to be solid whenever you have that in your opening hand. I like this card a lot. Next is Selfless Hero from Paladin. 1 mana, 2/1. Death Rattle, give a random friendly minion Divine Shield. That's good too. It synergizes so nicely with a lot of the different stuff that you get in with Paladin Whispers the Old Gods. Like I said in my class review video, I'm going to repeat a lot of the stuff. This is great for protecting your turn 2 drop. So, for instance, if you play this on turn 1, you go first, you play this on turn 1, your opponent plays something in response that has less than 3 life, so 2 or less. This can kill that, pop the Divine Shield on the other minion you play, whatever that is. I gave an example of a Knife Juggler before, and that is obviously a good example. You can put Divine Shield on your Knife Juggler and sort of guarantee that that'll stick around for at least another turn or 2. I like it. Again, something different. Fiery Bat for Hunter. This is such a great aggro card, and it's a beast. 1 mana, 2/1, Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. It's nice, and in my opinion, and in some ways better than Leponome, because it's gonna have the option of maybe like removing something from the board, because you don't want stuff on the board when you're going for face. Sometimes that just gets in the way, right? Bam, you got this, or it could just go for face. You know, that's a possibility as well. And you'll never complain about that. The Vilefin Inquisitor from Paladin. A Murloc. 1 mana, 1/3, Battlecry, your hero power becomes summon a 1/1 Murloc. This is amazing. The card art is great. The Silverhand Murloc is the cutest thing ever. But again, such a cool 1-drop. 1 mana for a 1/3 is great. It's so good. And it's making Paladin sort of the undisputed Murloc champ. I assume so, at least. I mean, there are other Murlocs for the other classes, but that, along with the whole Divine Shield thing, seems to be the identity that Blizzard are going for with Paladin, and I like it. It's another nice, solid 1-drop. The Zealous Initiate. 1 mana for a 1/1, Death Rattle, give a random friendly minion +1/+1. Somehow we hadn't seen that effect yet either. And it's a Death Rattle, it can synergize with other things. Tentacle of N'Zoth. I like this one too. Just because it's like a whirlwind in a minion. It's cool. It's just got a lot of uses, you know. You put this down, it can contest some early game pressure. You can use it in the later game to combo things. You can use it to trigger things. I think it's probably most effective for a class like Warrior, because they've got all those different synergies that they want to activate. But it's nice. Warlock are getting Possessed Villager. 1 mana for a 1/1, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Shadow Beast. I mean, that's not a super unique design or anything like that, but it's going to fit nicely with the whole token Warlock thing. I don't know if that's even going to be a thing, but there are a lot of cards and stuff that work in a positive manner when you have a lot of small minions on your board, so that's cool. Then there's the Bladed Cultist. This one I'm not sure about yet, but it looks like it could be decent. It's a very aggressive card. It would be terrible if you top deck it. Same for most of these 1-drops. Most of them. Like, if you have nothing in your hand, you top deck this, you're not going to be very happy about that. But still, I mean, it's 1 mana for a 1/2, it could be 1 mana for a 2/3 with no real downside. So it's cool. I like it. And that's it. That's the main reason why I put all the 1-drops on 9. Going forward, there are going to be single cards on the numbers, okay? So 8 all the way through to 1, they are single cards. But I thought that I'd just sort of include and feature those there because I'm such a big fan of the variety. Now, moving on to number 8, and I suppose the real list. Evolve. I put this here because I think it's going to be super fun to use and super, super strong. I just think this is going to be so, so good. Now, it's 1 mana, and it transforms all your minions into random minions that cost 1 more. And it's just 1 mana. You can use this early on. You can use this on turn 3 or 4 after you've put in down, say for instance, something like a Eternal Trog on turn 1, a Totem Golem turn 2. Then maybe, let's say you played something like Feral Spirit on turn... You can't do it on turn 2 because you'd be overloaded. But let's just say, okay, for argument's sake, you did that and you have a board of 4 minions. Because it's possible to have a board of 4 minions on turn, well, 4. Then maybe you overloaded, okay? Maybe you overloaded, you've only got 1 mana. You attack with all those minions, maybe you trade a little bit, maybe you go face, whatever. You pop this. It transforms them all into different minions, and then maybe you'll even get to attack again. Because if they have charge, then they'll just be able to attack right away. There are fewer minions with charge nowadays. Just, you know, with the loss of Arcane Golem, that's worth considering. But it doesn't really matter because either way, you'll get fresh minions. So if you traded, your minions will be healed up and turned into something different. You might get different effects, you might get taunts, you might get good death rattles. Who even knows? This is stupidly strong. I don't know if any of the professional Hearthstone players or, like, better known people have said anything about this yet, but I just feel like it's super strong. And I think that Shamans are going to be right at the tippy top of tier 1 when Whispers of the Old Gods sort of settles in. This is going to be a big, big, big part of that. At least, that's what I think. Then, at number 7, we have the Disciple of Cthulhu. 3 mana for a 2/1. Battlecry, deal 2 damage, give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. I love this card. I don't actually know why so much. I think it's mainly because it's kind of cheap, and Battlecry 2 damage is actually a big deal. Okay, it's a pretty big deal. On turn 3, being able to do 2 damage, that should be able to help you remove at least something from the board, and then you've still got the 2/1 that you're putting down on the board that could also contest something, or absorb something, or whatever, you know, it could make your opponent at least think for a moment, consider things for a moment, and on top of that, it gives your Cthulhu +2/+2. This is a nice card. I just like it. This is a neutral, so you can put it in any deck that you make, and it's always also just going to have a good use. Like, you pick it up on turn 3 or turn 7 or turn 10, it's probably going to be a decent top deck. I like Disciple of Cthulhu. The artwork's pretty cool as well. You don't see very many Pandoran in art, in Hearthstone card art. There just aren't that many of them. Next, number 6, Journey Below. There are a couple of rogue cards, quite a few rogue cards in my top 10, just because I'm passionate about rogue. I just, I'm not always super happy with how things are going for rogue. I mentioned before I wasn't happy about the fact that they didn't add a weapon, but I've sort of thought about things a little bit, and I think that rogue should be okay because they got a lot of really strong tools. And we're going to look at some of them going forward. But Journey Below, 1 mana, discover a death rattle card. This is also one of those you can use it at any point type cards. You could play this on turn 7, 8, 9, you could get Deathwing from it. The new Deathwing. You could play it on turn 1 when you have nothing else to play, and then you could get yourself something smaller. Harvest Golem. Okay, that's just a random example. It doesn't matter. You could get something that fits with what you need or want in your current game. I love that. I love the Discover mechanic, personally. I think it's amazing, and it's great that Rogue are getting a Discover card. This is also, for Rogue specifically, really, 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 really nice for comboing. Okay, so you got this extra card just to combo things, and you actually get something good from it. Get something useful from it. Well, it could potentially be terrible, of course. Could be a big fat whiff, it could be nothing, but for the most part, one of those 3 choices should be good. So you can use it to combo and stuff like that. You can also use it to your auctioneer. You can use it for anything. It's great. I love this. And it only costs 1. It only costs 1 mana. So I'll probably be putting 2 of these in most of my decks just because I like them. Then at number 5, we have Shadowcaster. 5 mana for a 4/4. Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, add a 1/1 copy to your hand that costs 1. Is that not amazing? I love this card. It's a little lower down. It's at 5 on my list because I'm not certain how I'm going to make it work. I'm not certain of all the uses yet, but it's pretty great. I think it's such a cool effect, especially for Rogue, because again, you're getting something cheap back in your hand. Now, this will synergize really nicely with one of the cards coming up in 1 or 2 positions. I think at number 3. But if you think about it, even if you just use this on something like a SI7 agent, that's already good. Like maybe you played that on turn 3 or 4 and it's still on your board. Pop this on that on turn 5. Then you got another SI7 that deals 2 damage if you combo it in your hand that only costs 1. You could use it on your auctioneer to make a mini auctioneer to maybe use later to boost your hand size again. You could use it on pretty much anything. The Disciple of Cthulhu, that'll once again give your Cthulhu +2/+2. Think about it. There are so many uses for this. You can use it on the biggest, baddest legendary. Maybe, you know, it's always a friendly minion, by the way. So you gotta keep that in mind. But maybe you run in an old god in your hand. You play Cthulhu, and then somehow it survives. Somehow you don't kill your opponent. Maybe, okay, you play Cthulhu as soon as you hit 10. Okay, and then as you play him, he's not that big yet. He doesn't have that big an impact on the game, but you've got the Shadowcaster, then he survives, then you get another Cthulhu in your hand that only costs 1. Oh, I just love the infinite possibilities. Speaking of infinite, if you get an infinite loop of Shadowcasters going, that's also pretty cool, right? Because you can do that. Technically, you can do that if you have both of them. I love Shadowcaster. I think it's such a cool card. Then, number 4, Shifter Zerus. This guy had to be in my top 10, and he had to be high up just because I love cheap legendaries, and this is the cheapest of legendaries, and the smallest legendary as well. 1 mana for a 1/1. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into something else. Another random minion. It's cool. I realize that it's super risky / random. It could be anything. This is like one of those that it could on turn 1 just, you're going to draw it, it's going to stay Shifter Zerus for that first turn, okay? It could on turn 1 be useful, you could drop it as a 1/1, whatever, if you just need to do that, you can do that. But on turn 2, it could turn into a 10 mana legendary that you'll have no use for. But, on the flip side, you could draw it later in the game, maybe turn 8, turn 9, and then it could turn into an old god on turn 10, and it would be amazing. Same thing for any other big legendary. But it's going to keep shifting in your hand, and then whenever it's time to strike, Shifter Zerus will be there, and ready, and waiting. I love this card. Again, it's just such a toolbox, you know, it's a toolbox all on its own. It's gonna have so much going for it, and it's just one card. I love the idea, I love it. And the artwork is super cute. That guy, he looks so determined to be something. You know, look at those eyes. That's great. Shifter Zerus. He's number 4. Number 3, another card that I really like the look of. It's a little weird, and I think that this might be a bit of a flop, but I just don't think so. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work in a good way. This is the Blade of Cthulhu. 9 mana for a 4/4. Okay, and this is the one I was saying could synergize really nicely with Shadowcaster if it actually survives. But its battle cry is destroy a minion, add its attack and health to Cthulhu's wherever it is. So it's an assassinate combined with a 4/4 minion. So you're playing a 4/4 minion for 4 with an assassinate on top of that, which makes it 9 mana, plus it's adding that attack and health to your Cthulhu. I really like this because if you're playing Rogue and you're like sort of cycling through your deck quickly, just by nature, you'll get this kind of early on in your hand, and you might also be able to cut down on the amount of Cthulhu cultists or disciples or followers that you put into your deck, because this one could have such a big impact. It could destroy a massive minion. Maybe it destroys something like, I don't know, Ysera or Gromash Hellscream or Malkarok or any of the other new legendaries, doesn't matter. I'm just randomly picking ones that come to mind. Doesn't matter which ones, but some of the bigger ones that are currently in the game. Ragnaros, Light Lord, adds 8/8 to your Cthulhu. Instantly he's above that 10 threshold. Instantly he's massive. Just play him on turn 10. Bam. Lots of damage. I love this card. Also, the dude in the card art, he's got some crazy eyes. You don't be messing with that dude. Look at those eyes. He's gonna kill you. He's gonna do it for Cthulhu. I like this card. That's why it's at number 3. I think it's gonna be super fun to use. Think about having this for 1 mana. If your opponent sees you use the Shadowcaster on this, he knows. He knows that his time in this game is short, because you're going to be able to do this multiple times, and if somehow that 1/1 token of Blade of Cthulhu survives, you can just do it again with a different Shadowcaster. Or you could Shadow Step the Shadowcaster, do this again. Oh, the value. Wow. Imagine that loop that you could set up. Say somehow you have this in game, then you Shadowcaster it. Just bear with me for a second. That costs 5 mana. You got 5 mana left, okay? Because we're talking 10 mana now. You got that in your hand. You play that for 1 mana. You got 4 mana left. You Shadow Step it. Is it then gonna... No, but then maybe it'll cost 7 again. Yeah, it's not going to cost 1 again. But regardless, this is great. And I can't wait to try it out. Number 2. A Light in the Darkness. 2 mana, discover a minion, give it +1/+1. It's like the Paladin version of Unstable Portal. Again, I love the discover mechanic. I like the fact that it's a minion, which means it could be anything. Absolutely anything. A little baby minion, a big fat legendary, and you're also giving it +1/+1. This is a nice card. This will, for me at least, be an auto-include in most Paladin decks. I realize that it's not going to put something on the board for you on turn 2. It's not like Unstable Portal that can instantly get you something and you can play it right away as well. Sure, it works a little differently, but Paladin, they have access to heals and stuff like that. They are able to stall a game a little longer. Like, maybe they don't need that immediate pressure or whatever. This is nice. It's going to give you so many options. I put this higher up because I like the fact that Blizzard are giving something like this to Paladin. It's uncharacteristic, but I think it'll be nice for Paladin to be able to use it. And I'm a big fan of Paladin. Paladin and Rogue are, at the moment at least, my 2 favorites. And I'm very excited for all the options available to them. And speaking of Rogue, my number 1 is none other than Xaril, Poisoned Mind. The Rogue Legendary. This is such a great card. The design of it, the strength of it, the lot of it. 4 mana for a 3/2, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Add a random toxin card to your hand. That's a Death Rattle as well, which means it can synergize with a whole lot of stuff. That's a Battlecry, which means you don't need to combo it. It can synergize with a whole lot of stuff, like Brand Bronzebeard. It's going to be so cool. The toxins, in case you didn't know, are really good as well. Here's King's Blood Toxin, which just allows you to draw a card for 1 mana. You could get 2 of those. Nice for comboing, nice for doing different things, like Briarthorn Toxin, give a minion +3 attack. Blood Thistle Toxin is basically a Shadow Step for 1 mana. Fade Leaf Toxin, give a friendly minion Stealth. Stealth is going to be useful because you're going to want to keep certain minions alive, like maybe Blade of Cthulhu. Maybe on turn 10, you got the Fade Leaf, you got the Blade, you drop him down, you kill something, you make him stealthed. Next turn, you Shadowcast him. Done. Bam. Great combo. And there's Fire Bloom Toxin, which is basically a smite. Also, super useful. I think any of these are actually good. Sure, at different points in the game, you'll want different ones, but you'll be getting 2 from Xaril. Or more, if you have something like Brand Bronzebeard out, or if you Shadow Step him. I love it. I think it's such a cool card. It's one of the better legendaries that was added, and again, it's cheap. It's a cheap legendary. Sure, the 4 mana for 3/2 is not amazing, but it's also not terrible. It could have been worse. It really could have been worse. Now, that's it for the top 10. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the top 10 itself, just because I want to know how maybe yours differs from mine, your thoughts differ from mine. Are there cards that you think I should have included there that I didn't include? Obviously, these were my personal favorite cards, the cards that I personally think are going to be the coolest going into Whispers of the Old Gods. But I am also going to show you guys now what my runners-up are. These ones almost made the list, just because I think they're really cool. So, first we have Fandral Staghelm. I just like the fact that you're going to be able to use this guy pretty early on, and you're going to get both those effects on your Choose 1 cards. With all the Choose 1 cards in Druid currently, this is just going to be a nice, solid legendary. And it's cheap. It's cheap as well. Ragnaros Lightlord is here because I just like the flavor of it, okay? I like the idea. I like that it's been confirmed that he shouts, "Live, insect!" when he casts his heal. It's amazing. It's great. 8 mana for a 8/8, just like the old Ragnaros. I like this card. I like it. I would have put it on the top 10, but I'm just not certain about it yet. And, well, I don't know. I think he deserves a spot in the top 10. He nearly made it in. Okay, he nearly made it in. This guy. Kind of cool. I'll probably put him in my Paladin decks. Then Sogoth the Slitherer. I thought about this guy for a while, and I thought to myself, okay, if you can get him in-game, get him in play by some alternate means, he's going to be so difficult to deal with. 9 mana, okay, is pretty expensive, but 5/9 taunt and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. This is the biggest, baddest wall in Hearthstone. It's crazy. And I love the artwork. I love those little dudes standing on the cliff there. They're done for. They don't stand a chance against Sogoth the Slitherer. No. Then, Twin Emperor Veclor. 7 mana 4/6 taunt battlecry. If your Cthulhu has at least 10 attacks, summon another Emperor. You're going to get him and his brother or partner in crime. So you're going to get 2 4/6s with taunt. I think that the 10 attack on Cthulhu is going to be very easy to attain. I think this is going to see a lot of play. I think because of the amount of big taunts in the game, Black Knight is going to make a big comeback. Like, everyone's going to be playing Black Knight. I'm going to put Black Knight in almost every single deck just because. He's going to be great. He'll have tons of targets. And I can't wait to Black Knight this guy. Just can't wait to do it. But he's good. This is a good card. This could also have been, easily have been in my top 10. Kabbalist's Tome. I put this here because it's super strong. I saw them using this in the preview stream for Whispers of the Old Gods. And 3 random mage spells. Wow. If you got your ice block up, you got your ice barrier up, you're pretty safe right now. You're sitting maybe on full life, you hit turn 5, you cast this, you'll just have so many more options in your hand. And what's really cool is that you either get in the burn spells or the secrets, and those are the ones you want. They could extend your game by giving you more armor, or giving you that extra ice block, or they could just help you speed the game up by giving you that burn. It's a good card. Cyclopean Horror, 4 mana for a 3/3. Taunt Battlecry. Gain 1 health for each enemy minion. I think this is going to be pretty good. I think that this is going to see quite a bit of play, especially because there will be a couple of classes that are going to be using token decks. And against the token deck, if you have like 3 or 4 or 5 minions on the opposite side of the board, this is going to be great. Imagine the guy just has 4 minions. It's going to be a 3/7 with taunt. It's quite good. And with the removal or the nerf of some of the silence effects and charge minions, this is even stronger. Then we have the giant sandworm. I love this idea. I like the trample effect that it's got. 8 mana, 8/8. Whenever it kills another minion, it may attack again. I like that. It's like just bam, 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 bam. Goodbye, board. Thanks for coming. Control Hunter for the win. I wish it would go like that. Seriously, I'm hoping for a Control Hunter, for a different Hunter archetype. Mid-range Hunter is actually pretty good, but it's a bit boring now, and it's actually mid/face Hunter anyway, just because that's how Hunter plays its games. Going for the face. Renounced Darkness for Warlock. I just like this because it's such an interesting concept. The fact that you can, for 2 mana, replace your hero power and all your Warlock class cards with another classes, and they all cost 1 less. That means it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and at the same time, it's something that I feel your opponent just can't play around. It's basically like, imagine someone takes this to a tournament, okay, and they're playing a Warlock, and you maybe put, I don't know, 1 or 2 of these in a Reno Warlock deck. Okay, and I say Reno Warlock because you maybe want to try and put as much variety in as possible, but at the same time, so then you can sort of try and stick with Warlock as long as possible. I don't know how many class cards there are going to be. I don't know if it's going to be possible to only put one of each class card in and still get to 30, but whatever. Okay, you put this in some kind of defensive warlock, and then you can either go one of two routes. You either outlast them and just win as a warlock, if they're like a aggro deck or something like that, or you pop this pretty early on, and then you surprise them with something completely different, and then you outvalue them because you could potentially get a bunch of good stuff for cheap. I don't know, I like the idea. It's got a great flavor, and it's going to be so fun. Like, fun/funny. I think this is going to be great. Damn Warlock Pretenders. Then we have Master of Evolution. I think this is just a super, super strong card. 4 mana for a 4/5 is ridiculous. It is stupidly strong. There's no overload on here. Battlecry, transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more. You just play this on something that costs, say, 2 mana. Maybe you play that thing that unlocks your mana crystals. I don't know, it doesn't matter, the 2 mana one, or maybe any 3 mana minion. Okay, Spider Tank, whatever, it doesn't matter. You put this on there, you can once again heal it up, you make it into something that's 1 tier stronger, and you get a 4/5 on the board. I don't know how this passed testing, because it seems incredibly strong, just like all the other Shaman cards. I don't get it. I feel like Shaman's going to be unstoppable, but maybe not. We'll see. Silithid Swarmer. This is a weird one, right? But I think that this is going to be an auto-include in a lot of rogue decks. Just because it's such a big body for only 3 mana, and it'll give you that incentive to actually use your hero power, to dagger up. I like it. Yeah? You can also use different weapons, of course, because you just need to attack. It specifies that you just need to attack. But 3 mana for a 3/5, it's a great anti-aggro tool. I like Silithid Swarmer. Then we have Steward of Darkshire. This is a paladin. 3 mana for a 3/3. Whenever you summon a 1 health minion, give it Divine Shield. I like that it's 1 health and not 1 attack. You know why? Wolf Rider might even synergize nicely with this. You play Wolf Rider, it turns it into a Scarlet Crusader or whatever that thing is with 3/1 and Divine Shield. A Wolf Rider with Divine Shield. That's really good, right? Isn't it? Because you can trade, the Wolf Rider stays alive, you've got another 3/1. I like this card. I think it's going to be good for Paladin. Then we have Faceless Summoner. This is another card that I'm not sure how it even made its way in here in its current form. 6 mana for a 5/5, which is not that great, but Battlecry, summon a random 3-cost minion. That's strong. That's really strong. There are going to be some cards in Whispers of the Old Gods that people are just going to be so sick of so soon. Because people are going to die to those cards. This might be one of them. It's random. It's quite random. Because if you think about it, there are some 3-cost cards that are pretty weak. But there are more good ones than weak ones as far as I know. You could get a 4/4 Arcane Golem. 6 mana for a 5/5 plus a 4/4. That's very good. Then we have Nerubian Prophet. Now, Nerubian Prophet is very interesting. Because I did not realize the first time I reviewed this how it worked. This almost made my top 10. At the start of your turn, reduce this card's cost by 1. At the start of every turn. So, it's interesting, but, firstly it needs to be in your hand. So this would be an auto keep in your opening hand. But then by the time you get to turn 3 or 4, it's costing basically nothing, and you're going to be able to play a 4/4 for basically nothing. I like the idea of it again. I like the idea that it can sit in your hand. It synergizes nicely with those other keep cards in your hand type cards. It's a cool card. It's another nice idea that Blizzard came up with here. So, as the game goes on, you will have a better chance to drop this and get extreme value from it, because you might drop it for free or whatever. And I said before, it's the kind of card that you might keep until your opponent uses that big board clear, then you'll just drop it down. I like it. And that is the end of it. There are a couple of others that I almost included in my top 10 and in my honorable mentions list, but I didn't want to put too many in there. I could almost put the entire set in there. If I just continued adding them, then there'd probably be too many. So, and this video would just be an hour long again. But that's it. That's my top 10. Those are my honorable mentions. I want to hear what you guys think. I want to hear if you think it's going to be a accurate list, if I'm still going to like these cards in a week or two. I think that a lot of them I will. I think that some of them I might definitely not, but I think that a lot of them will be pretty good. And again, I'd like to hear what maybe you can just give me your top 3 or top 5, because that's easier. but I'd like to hear so we can compare notes. Check back here soon for more, probably a whole lot of card pack opening videos, because that's what I'm going to be doing, opening a lot of card packs. I'm going to open as many as I possibly can. I think that I've got the 50 from the pre-order, and I've got well over 10,000 gold already, so I'm going to be able to open that as well. There's going to be a lot of card packs. A lot. So you can check back here soon for that, give this a like, share it, and do all the good stuff. Most importantly though, happy Whispers of the Old Gods. Coming soon, or maybe even already live when this video goes up, who knows? Happy that.